Ghana's artisanal palm oil sector is getting a green makeover. Small-scale processors, responsible for processing 80% of fresh oil palm fruit bunches, are gearing up to combat methane emissions and boost efficiency with modernized equipment. Palm oil processing in Ghana is dominated by small-scale operations, with over 1,000 artisanal processing centers scattered across the country. Artisanal and small-scale palm oil producers occupy a greater share of Ghana's palm oil processing industry, producing 60 to 80% of the country's palm oil. However, the processing systems used by the palm oil producers are mainly the traditional metal cooking pots and steel tanks. The outdated method leads to unsustainable energy use and methane emissions from poor waste management. Research indicates that methane emissions from palm oil mill effluent exceed 1.2 metric tons per metric ton of crude palm oil produced. Additionally, small-scale operations often use inefficient screw presses and steel oil palm fruit processing. On a visit to Joe Farms, a palm oil milling site in Kade, we caught up with Yao, a worker at the mill, who was gracious to take us through the manual milling process.
When the
tractors transport the palm nuts from the bush, they are unloaded into the yard in their natural form. The nuts are then grounded, after which the ladies remove the chaff with their bare hands, leaving only the nuts itself. The nuts are then carried and poured into the loco for preparation. After preparing the palm nuts, the cooked palm nuts are collected with a bucket, transferred into a pan, and poured into the mill for processing.
The milling process also produces a sludge, palm oil mill effluent, with a high biological and chemical oxygen demand that releases methane into the atmosphere. For energy, they also burn used ties and firewood under conditions that are inadequate for effective combustion. This generates excessive smoke and causes significant health and environmental issues.
This is the loco. After removing the palm nuts on the other side and carrying them, they are poured into the loco. We fill it with water, lock the opening, and then pour more water into it. Fire is placed under it to cook. Once the cooking is done, we use buckets to collect the palm nuts into a pan. Then carry the pan and pour the contents into the mill. So that is the mill. Cooking the palm nuts takes almost 4 hours, but we prepare them at night and place fire under them to cook throughout the night. By the time we return in the morning, they are properly cooked and ready for pounding. When we arrive, the palm nuts still retain heat, which is necessary for the process. We pound them with the remaining water they are in. We simply quench the fire, collect the cooked palm nuts along with the hot water, and pour them into the mill on the side. It is a manpower mill, even though it uses electricity. So, when we pour the palm nuts into the mill, we first switch on the machine. Initially, we fill the funnel, then turn the machine on. Once the machine is switched on, it automatically starts to rotate. As the shaft rotates, the palm nuts are drawn into the machine and processed. We tighten the mill to ensure the palm nuts grind perfectly. After grinding, we untighten the mill to allow the oil to flow out from one side, while the chaff and palm kernels are separated and come out from another side.
Yeah, more than gallons. But mill, how many buckets ne bit me afa?
Okay, mill ne bit me afa, but say 20 buckets. Say Johnny and so a bit my for 20 buckets.
Na muloko na mo wa hey together no about how many buckets of more the buckets nesa bena how many buckets in bit me afeli loko na mo wa nyina.
One mill can process up to 20 buckets, while the entire loco can handle about 500 to 800 buckets. A mill takes 1 to 2 hours to process the palm nuts, and a loco can also process within the same time frame. After the oil and hot water mixture is poured into the pan, the ladies carry it and pour it back into the same loco they used for the cooked palm nut. They refill it with water and cook it again. After pounding and separating, the oil is mixed with water and additional chaff, making it thick. We add more water during cooking so that the oil rises to the top, while the water and chaff settle at the bottom of the loco. Finally, we collect the oil into the gallons.
The palm kernel and the chaff.
I'm going to be this side, no good pan. Take good pan money and so and banana soa. And so in the hot water and a fra and go a good pan and banana soa could go back to local Nimubia. Local na sab and if yes and then gonna cook near Bunseguna, Yaboa Seja and what.
Now, Moody Kogu loco ni more. I didn't know was almost Andy Kogu loco ni mubium.
Ayana, and go a wa, Ayana chaff sanfra, and then go and quaneba, and in soon any chaff on the beat, so which maybe some corn winning. Tiana take into Yangon Rosa, and he said, Yanwa, a Bunsugunianwa, na and gono abeni, na chaff on the news, and Yanaqua and Sunny Sangonefi and Yagugalonsum.
Ghana aims to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 45% by 2030, as outlined in its climate plan. The government plans to achieve a 15% reduction through measures like expanding low-carbon electricity and tree planting. To meet this target, Ghana will implement 18 actions in industry, energy, and forestry, all aligned with Sustainable Development Goals. The remaining 30% is dependent on international support.
Almost one going into an chaff in the local.
We pour the mixture into the loco and heat it up for the dirt and chaff to stay beneath. Then the oil comes up. We then fill up the gallons with the oil. The preparation takes 2 to 3 hours. We have an opening that takes out the chaff when we are done fetching out the oil. Our work is entirely manpower. Within an hour, we are able to fill out 20 gallons from the big loco. The medium loco gives 15 gallons and the small loco fills out 10 gallons maximum.
Cloth be honum, I kata honum. It is a bendia, a daddy fi honum, nebi, name soon a fat gatanum co down honum. And take down on yes. Yes, sense you as an be, names you fin down honum.
At this point, and now more extracted and wonana.
I've been really extracting gun before. Say, a bojani, yen where we are now a being extracting gun if you need a good gallons in him. And yes, I feel in a chaff in ensuring in a cat. Look on him near vehicle.
And Nina no more way in a manpower.
Nina manpower from the scratch.
And to say Moses a beno BCC, a Moses and one BCC, to say as he say, I hear a bit me as a everybody's old now in an hour about gallons bears in a bit me as a
so John in an hour bit myself to say 20 gallons. Yeah, 20 gallons. Local back home, Bema I hear. Local back Bema gallons I hear. Local Cassianima 20 gallons.
Okay.
And we only have 1.5 and we're 15 gallons. So we extract here. Yeah. And about could be a ketua and also 10 gallons maximum.
Nanami Husena Udin show. I saw you pour water on the oil, on the palm oil. What about that?
I say I'm gonna be any air still a sound any issue near any effort.
When the oil is ready, it is mixed with the unwanted water and chaff. So we pour water into the mixture to bring the oil on top and to keep what we don't need beneath. When we fill the gallons, they are ready for sale. When the oil is almost at the level of the chaff, we add more water, wait for the solution to stand, and later sieve it again. Within a day, we are able to produce about 400 gallons. We have a ready market that loads the product away on market days, specifically Thursdays. The oil is taken mainly to Togo and Nigeria and randomly here in Ghana.
About how many gallons na muchiminya?
In a day, it means to say 400 gallons.
400 gallons, no. More ready marketing for muya amount for bar besisa na.
A more specific day on the back to say market day for Thursday. As a car casino, we are goose only need to be on Sakia and as a window. I will be loading on the car.
Modecor, me am the coin from Yamia Ben and Modeco Ghana here and as a modi be caught a manone.
I'm mostly on before the Togo in Nigeria.
Just a hard move for being Ghana for.
Sometimes on Befabi, but maximum load in the co to go in Nigeria. Your well abiphobia to me the Nediaba, a Babayawa, and owner and Ankasan to me to Toby, no Babayawa.
People come here with their palm fruits for processing. The owner also makes palm fruits available here for sale. People who come here for processing are charged for the processing and water fee. These people sell to their customers and sometimes wait for the trucks to arrive and then sell to them.
Buyers nibi. If you come to me this one, car ne banner before Quanzuana on my tom. By the edge, machine ni fee. If we any so no more use Nivia, no maybe.
The Sustainable Artisanal Palm Oil Processing Program by Solidaridad is expected to contribute to Ghana's emission reduction goals once authorized. Solidaridad has designed the Sustainable Artisanal Palm Oil Processing Program to reduce emissions in Ghana by approximately 550,000 metric tons of carbon dioxide, equivalent by 2030. The Sustainable Artisanal Palm Oil Processing Program deploys biogas systems designed to use biomass to replace harmful fuel sources and reduce the environmental impact of palm oil processing. The extracted gas will then be used in the further processing of the palm oil. The remaining waste, which meets the Ghana government's Environmental Protection Authority standards, can be used as fertilizer. Additionally, the technology features a biomass dryer that is equipped with a cyclone and a rotary airlock unit for drying biomass, as well as a biomass boiler that uses oil palm biomass such as fiber, empty fruit bunches, and palm kernel shells to generate energy through combustion. In all, the modernization process is expected to reduce methane emissions from artisanal oil palm processing centers by integrating biogas systems to treat palm oil residue, and finally replace wood and used ties as fuel stock by using oil palm biomass to generate steam using a biomass boiler to improve energy generation. It also saves time, improves output, and enhances working conditions for the oil palm processors to enhance health and safety. Yao Ewusi Entry, owner of Joel Farms, explains how the mechanized process works.
From the sterilizer gets heated. We have steam coming into the sterilizer. It takes about 45 to an hour for the fruits to get cooked, well cooked. And then from the sterilizer, we have a conveyor that will bring it to what we call a thresher. The thresher is what shakes the fruit, the bunch, and get the loose out. And from the thresher, it goes to the press. That is where we get the oil with the sludge, and then the separation starts from there. So when we from the first component, we have three components in that separation. The first one, the second one. When it gets to the third, then we pump it straight to go and to cook it. Yeah, for the cooking, we do it in the cooking tank. It all takes about the most 2 hours. It's done.
Now, from where you sit, would you call for more support, especially from government, in helping people like you to be able to scale up?
Yes. Most of the things that we need here, even what I have right now, we should have like space, because we have parts of machines. If I do have space, it will help us when something. When something goes bad or something breaks down, we just replace it. Yeah.
So what would you call on government to do for you exactly? Is it funding? Is it technical capacity? What kind of support do you need?
Okay, we do need the government. We need cash because this can be used for 24 hours. So if we do have the fruits, if we have cash to buy the fruits, we can be processing oil all day, 24 hours. So we do need cash, and we need spare parts, like I told you, spares of the parts. Yeah.
But how about the power situation? How is it likely to affect this plant if you start full operations?
These things don't go bad just in days. It takes a while. So it should not affect too much. But if you do have something sitting, if something goes bad, let's say if you use a part like the press, in about 9 months or so, it will need to be replaced. So we can do the replacement much easier.
He explains how the innovation has saved time spent at the mill and improved output.
Health-wise, it has moved us from the smoke to a smoke-free facility, and it has also given us a shorter time for the fruits to sit, waiting for processing. Now we process fruits that comes today, probably tomorrow it can be processed. So the processing time is shortened, and we're also getting a very high quality oil.
So how long does it take for the machine to process?
We do have 2 sterilizers, and each sterilizer takes about 2 tons of bunch fruits. That is the fruits in the bunch that goes straight into one of the sterilizers is about 2 tons. And as soon as it gets into the sterilizer, from there to the time we get oil, it takes about at most 2 hours. Yeah, and it's a 2-ton sterilizer.
What's the output? So how many gallons are you able to get in a day, for instance, or do you estimate in getting in a day compared to you doing the manual?
Okay, in the manual, we aggregate the fruits before we process. So in a day, we can on the 10th day, we can have like 20 to 30 drums, which is in liters. Each drum is 250 liters. But here we get about 10 drums in a day. Usually when we start early in the morning, like say 4 o'clock in the morning, and by 6 p.m. when we are closed, at least we can have like we can have 10 drums, which is times 250 liters. So if you want it in liters, we calculate it.
Investment is needed to increase climate resilience and lessen the negative impacts of climate change on the environment. To unlock investments to manage the risk associated with climate change, Mr. Ewusi details how the need for funding will assist in the expansion of the project.
We do need the government, we need cash, because this can be used for 24 hours. So if we do have the fruits, if we have cash to buy the fruits, we can be processing oil all day, 24 hours. So we do need cash, and we need spare parts, like I told you, spares of the parts. Yeah.
But how about the power situation? How is it likely to affect this plant if you start full operations?
These things don't go bad just in days. It takes a while. So it should not affect too much. But if you do have something sitting, if something goes bad, let's say if you use a part like the press, in about 9 months or so, it will need to be replaced. So we can do the replacement.
Modernizing Ghana's artisanal palm oil sector will transform traditional milling practices across the country. It will greatly improve efficiency and contribute to economic growth in local communities in addition to its health benefits, especially for women. Andre De Freitas is the executive director at Solidaridad Network. He cites the health hazards and the minimal economic value of the local milling process as worrying.
The traditional process of producing palm oil are very inefficient. So they produce a lot of smoke, they produce health hazards. There's a lot of women that are exposed to all the smoke and poor working conditions. And the yield that you get from the palm oil is a lot lower. So there's less economic benefit as well. So by investing in better processing facilities, we get better yield from the oil. So we go from 12% to 20%. And we improve significantly the quality of the oil and the working conditions. So women will no longer be exposed to these very smoky, dangerous conditions that they were before.
So, in the medium to long term, what do you hope to achieve? Is it that you want to set up these plants across various palm oil processing, areas?
So I think there's a couple of things. So this is a proof of concept. So showing that a different model is possible, that you can produce things better and make more money with it. More money for the producer, the mill itself, but also for the farmers.
Now, from what you said, what do you think we can do to support some of these farmers beyond what you are doing currently? We were having a conversation with Joe. He mentioned a bit of government support in terms of funding and all of that. Collectively, what can we do to improve some of these situations on the ground?
So I think best management practices. So I think is one of the things. So if you look at a lot of the palm oil farms have very low productivity. So if you invest in best management practices, BMPs, you can raise significantly the production of palm oil and get to maybe 20 tons a hectare of fruit. So that's one key benefit that you have. I think if you look at these type of mills, also support from in terms of finances and loans, and I think it's important to have a financing mechanism that helps producers to invest.
The oil produced at these local farms is mostly of low quality due to the traditional processing method. This has forced refineries to import a lot of palm oil for various uses, while the oil produced at the local mills are sold to local soap manufacturers and the rest exported out of the country. By scaling up solutions such as the Sustainable Artisanal Palm Oil Processing Program by Solidaridad, the artisanal and small-scale palm oil producing women and men now have the power to transform their carbon-intensive footprints to one that's greener, cleaner, and more sustainable.